All right, well, we are about 60 seconds past the hour, so I did want to go ahead and get us started today. So welcome to today's webinar that introduces the Modern BI Journey series, A Shift Towards a Modern Data Warehouse. I'm Audrey Eloquin, AWS Alliance Manager at Apps Associates. I'm fortunate to be joined today by Vaidi Krishnan within the Global Business Development at AWS and Adib Kardabil, who is our VP of Analytics here at Apps Associates. Thank you all for joining us today. I'd like to review a couple house rules before we get started. Today's session will be recorded and your lines are on mute. Although questions are encouraged, the questions themselves can be submitted through the chat feature throughout today's session, and we will answer them at the end, time permitting. And in addition to that, I'd like to go ahead and overview the agenda for today and then introduce over to Adib. So today's session will focus on the journey towards modern analytics. Adib will walk us through how things have changed from a data warehousing perspective and how the cloud opens up analytics to a new frontier. From there, Vaidi will review the benefits of a cloud data warehouse and highlight key features within Amazon Web Services Redshift. And we will close today's webinar with the Q&A and closing remarks. So with that, I would like to introduce Adib to the series, and as he begins to highlight what to expect along the journey. Adib, over to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Audrey, and welcome to our webinar. This is going to be exciting. It's a series of multiple episodes that are going to cover different areas related to data warehousing in general, as well as AWS specifically. So to get started, I'm gonna go through the different aspects of the journey and kind of highlight the key areas we're going to be covering. I feel that it is important to kind of lay out the plan on what we are going to be presenting, just to make sure that you keep in mind that each session is going to cover a specific area of AWS, as well as areas related to the business and how are these business solutions developed. So we designed this in a way that starts with an introduction of Apps Associates, which is, I think, important. I think it's important to know our background, our credibility in really doing things of this nature, and our deep experience in data warehousing going back way before the cloud was even an option. We're going to talk about Apps Associate. We're going to talk about what have we seen from a data warehousing standpoint related to the on-premise data warehousing, the way we did things in the past, and what we see the opportunity is going forward, and what would the cloud bring as a transformation to the way we did things. We think that's very important. So we're going to give you our point of view from an app standpoint, and I'm sure you're going to get it from AWS as well. And then what we're going to talk about is we're going to dig deep into today's session towards the end. We're going to talk about, what is AWS, what's Redshift, what does the technology consist of, and Vaidi will walk us through the AWS introduction. So today would be an introduction session. Tomorrow we're going to deep dive into the extraction process. As apps, we have done many implementations of data warehousing, interfacing with Oracle ERP and Oracle applications. We are going to take that knowledge and experience that we've had throughout the years and share with you some of the pre-built technologies that we have that allows us to very easily and seamlessly connect to Oracle and pull the data that's needed for different purposes. So that would be a discussion around that in in session 2. And then session basically 3 will be a much more technical and deeper dive into AWS, where Vaidi is going to walk us through the key components of AWS and from all aspects, from the extraction process all the way to reporting, and that would be very knowledgeable, and that would be a very knowledge-based session basically. And Vaidi is very knowledgeable about that, and he's going to share that with us in session 3. And session 4, we're going to take everything we've talked about in 1, 2, and 3, and we're going to put it into practice by showing you and sharing with you and allowing you to participate in building a finance solution, a supply chain solution, as well as an HR solution. So hopefully this agenda makes sense, and it helps you really understand the background of the companies that are on the webinar, that are presenting today, as well as the technology that's behind it. A quick overview on Apps Associates. We are a consulting company. We've been around since 2002. We specialize in the art, basically, of helping companies meet their business needs by providing the right technologies. And those technologies range from ERP to analytics to other areas as well. So we are based in the US with locations in Europe as well as in India. Currently, we have about 295 active clients, and we have somewhere around 875, 900 employees worldwide. Our area of expertise and specialization would be business applications like Salesforce and Oracle, Oracle ERP, Oracle EPM, and other areas of Oracle, as well as analytics and the integration and infrastructure management managed services that we have. We provide that for all Oracle and non-Oracle applications, managed service offering. The analytics practice, which the AWS and the data warehousing services that we provide fall under that practice, which I'm managing, basically consists of multiple areas and multiple qualifications that I'd like to share with you. So the services that we provide are not just implementation services. We work with many of our clients in helping them evaluate, assess their options, align their strategy with the right technology. We do that as part of our strategic services. Obviously, we do implementations of data warehousing, reporting, data integration. We migrate many of our clients from on-prem to the cloud. We are highly specialized in that type of process of taking an on-prem type of data warehouse or solution and migrating it to the cloud, as well as hosting and managed services. We have about 125 experts in our practice. We've done about 75 plus implementations, and we currently today manage about 30 plus clients under our managed services offering. The skills, as you can see, are very broad. They involve multiple technologies, as well from all aspects, from the ETL aspect to the data warehousing aspect, as well as the reporting. So deep experience in really providing the full suite of services when it comes to data warehousing and reporting. The expertise, obviously, as you would expect, it is really the full cycle from data modeling, design, requirements, as I said earlier, strategic services, to data warehousing development and data visualization, which is your reporting from a dashboarding reporting standpoint. Our consultants are certified in many areas, including AWS, as well as other technologies that we specialize in. Our experience is quite extensive when it comes to Oracle. Today, we have about 295 active Oracle customers that we're working with. And we specialize in really implementing ERP, SCM, HCM, as well as EPM. So very, very deep roots and knowledge and experience when it comes to Oracle that we can bring to the table as we talk about, BI and data warehousing and projects of that nature. We have the reach to deliver anywhere around the world, and our consultants obviously are all over the world as well. One key area that I wanted to cover today is, some folks ask me, well, why AWS? Why the cloud? What is the difference? As we've done this for so many years, we've really had a lot of experience and exposure to the pluses and minuses of doing things one way or the other. At one point of time, data warehouses were one option, right? On-premise data warehouse that required a lot of hardware and support and maintenance, and that worked out fine for a while. However, with the advent of the cloud, as you all know, now you have the capability of the cloud available to you, where you would limit your investment, the maintenance, the support, and just be able to use it for what's intended to, which is really give you the information and the data you need to better manage your business. So going back to the traditional way of doing data warehousing and the struggles that we have experienced and our clients have experienced and still experience today with more of the on-prem model. As you know, it is a limited structure. The only way you can store data is through a star schema type of model. We found that to be limiting and really restricted the availability of broader spectrum of data. That's something that most of our clients still struggle with today under the model of the on-premise data warehouse. The other aspect of it is that it's a row-based design. The data warehouse is all row-based. Does not give you the capability to go across columns and look at your data in a different way. Limited availability of raw data, right? Data had to be structured. It had to be set in one format. In today's world, with the capabilities of the tools that are available out there, clients really want to get access to raw data, to the data as it was transacted and became available, to do their slicing and dicing and mining of the data. So that capability was not available in the past. And every data transformation from one system to the other was a major project and a major process. The other aspect of it is sharing of data, right? The data warehouse is an ironclad, basically a structure that any piece of data to be shared with other parts of the organization was very limited. And even if you had shared the data never really met the business requirements of different aspects of the business. Storage, hardware, all that was an expensive process where you had to keep up with it. The more data you added, the more storage you needed. The slower it becomes with time, and the access to data in that fashion becomes limited as well, and the retrieval is not to the level that most users would like. So these are the struggles that we've had with the data, the on-prem traditional data warehouse, and what that led to are many pain points that our clients experience dealing with it, right? The scalability was always an issue. The infrastructure and maintenance, very expensive, very IT-centric, right? The limitation, to be able to really expand and add to it from an architectural standpoint. And then, the ongoing monitoring and tuning. You always had to keep an eye on it. You always had to make sure that it is being tuned and watched regularly, as well as performance was always a limitation when it came to the traditional way of doing data warehousing. Today, with the advent of the cloud and AWS, we're finding that data warehousing really has taken a whole different form. Many of the pain points that we've had in the past and many of our clients experience on-prem today are not as do not exist, quite frankly, in some cases, and other cases are minimized to a point that they are very manageable. The concept of really switching from a row to a columnar structure, which is supported by AWS, makes a huge difference in the way you can interact and manage your data warehouse. The ability to really create two types of data store areas, right? Your data lake as well as your data warehouse, and being able to share data between the two creates a very flexible environment that caters to your business user that's looking for a structured, metrics-driven data repository, as well as the users that are looking for the raw data and are able to interact with that as well. The sharing of data has become much easier. just, for the fact that you're on the cloud is one aspect, but because of the ability to really take that data, transform it, and make it ready for sharing based on certain requirements. That availability is something that is big, and we find our clients really doing a lot of that, internally and externally within the organization, outside as well. The on-demand storage, the ability to dynamically expand the storage needs and the performance needs within the cloud and AWS, we find that to be a game changer, quite frankly, where, during high demand, the need for additional storage, additional speed and performance is really, much easier to manage within an environment like AWS, and through their S3 storage capabilities, which Vaidi is going to talk about later. And then finally, it's data retrieval, and the way we retrieve data and interact with the data is really changed and allows for a much quicker access to the answers that users are looking for. Finally, the bottom line is that the benefits and the key advantages are broad. The flexibility of not having a star schema requirement for your data is key. The distribution and the ability to look at data through certain concepts that AWS has that really make access to the data much easier and much quicker. The ability to store in a data warehouse or a data lake format, which is very beneficial, as well as tight security and the ability to migrate from one platform to the other, which is a big advantage as well. So that really concludes my portion of the presentation. I hope this introduction was helpful. I know it was at a high level, but just to kind of set the stage to make sure that we take a look at what have we struggled with throughout the years with data warehousing and what the future can bring as well. Thank you. And now I want to switch it to Vaidi for his part of the presentation.
Thank you, Adib. And thanks to all for listening. My name is Vaidi. I'm part of the Amazon Redshift business development team. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about how Redshift can modernize your data warehouse and accelerate your business. And I want to start by, diving a little deeper into some of the things Adib already mentioned, which is, how does a cloud data warehouse alleviate some of the pain points of legacy data architectures, right? So it all starts with really enabling customers to get insights from all their data, right? And traditional data warehouses were simply not optimized for storing non-relational data based on events. So things such as machine-generated data and log files and clickstream data and social media data. And this was primarily because it was designed for relational data. And as volume and velocity continue to increase, you have to invest in a ton of data movement to shape that data in the right format, and it just creates a lot of extra work, right? So that's the one of the primary motivators. The second thing is it's also useful to know that many of our customers, they want to be able to combine business data and event data to gain a competitive advantage. For example, you might want to combine your revenue data with clickstream to answer questions around customer behaviors prior to purchase, right? And you need architectures that are flexible and that are decoupled to allow you to do that, without being constrained by a fixed hardware, right? Second is all about scale, elasticity, and flexibility, right? So before cloud computing happened, you had to over-provision your infrastructure to ensure you had enough capacity to handle your business operations at peak level, right? Now, you just provision the amount of resources that you actually need, and a lot of our customers, they start really small. And as their needs evolve and fluctuate, they can grow the size of Redshift without having to guess for capacity in advance. Third is productivity, right? cloud allows you to be more agile, innovate faster, because you can focus most of your valuable IT resources on strategic and value-added activity that really help differentiate your business, as opposed to some of the undifferentiated heavy lifting. And finally, it's all about operating in a pay-as-you-go world, right? The cloud allows you to trade capital expense, so data centers, physical servers, for variable expense, and only pay for the IT as you consume it, right? So that's sort of touching on the fundamental benefits of a cloud data warehouse. In addition to the benefits of a cloud data warehouse, there's also an additional need that has come up, which is many of our customers have told us that they also want to analyze the data that sits in the warehouse. So the most frequently accessed, relatively recent static business data optimized for data warehouse consumption, they want to analyze that in concert with older, colder data, which frankly could be billions and trillions of records and could span multiple years of your business's existence, but may not necessarily need to sit in your data warehouse. In such a scenario, we see customers moving to data lake architectures. And Redshift is unique in that it is the only data warehouse that allows you to ask questions of your data in the data warehouse in concert with data in the data lake. And affectionately, we call this approach a lake house approach, right? So there's tons of benefits to this. So what you can do is you can obviously query the data that's most recent directly from Redshift, but also you can use open formats such as Avro and CSV and JSON to query data in S3, which is where you will traditionally store more finely granular, voluminous event data. So again, it all comes down to flexibility, right? So you have the flexibility to store the highly structured, frequently accessed data in Redshift and keep the exabytes of structured and unstructured data in S3. And with Redshift Spectrum, you can seamlessly straddle the two. So that's another huge benefit in addition to the economies of scale and the elasticity benefits that the cloud provides, right? So with that, let's quickly go over what Redshift as a technology constitutes, right? So in a nutshell, it's a relational data warehouse. It's based off a PostgreSQL, but it was entirely rewritten. It had its guts replaced. The engine was rewritten to be massively parallel, enabling divide and conquer. The data is stored by columns rather than rows, which really optimizes the types of queries you might experience in a data warehousing or analytics type use case. There is multiple Redshift instances, again, optimal for the specific use case. So we have magnetic drives for large storage workloads. We have solid state drives for heavy compute workloads. And we also have a new instance that we launched at reInvent last year that I'll touch upon a little bit, that really helps you separate storage from compute. And that way you don't have to ever size your instance for storage ever. You only have to size it for compute, and that's also SSD based. You can start really small for as low as $1,000 per terabyte per year, starting at 25 cents an hour, which is, according to the comparisons we've run internally, is less than a tenth of most other cloud data warehousing solutions. So Redshift today is by far the most popular cloud data warehouse with it. It all starts with the broad customer base that we have today, right? So as of reInvent, we had over 20,000 customers, and these included companies like Electronic Arts and Aetna, and you have McDonald's and Yelp and Dow Jones, as well as a lot of cloud native digital startups and large Silicon Valley companies, including Yelp and Tinder. So our customer base spans every vertical and every horizontal that you can think of, and collectively, our customers are processing exabytes of data per day. Another thing to note is that the span of use across the install base also allows us to gain valuable insights from the fleet, which in turn helps us to improve the service. Okay, so know also that Redshift is only one component of our broader database and analytics portfolio today. If you scan this slide, what you see is that we have a number of services that match this particular use case that our customers are looking to drive. So if you are a customer wanting to move away from self-managing Oracle or SQL Server, Amazon offers Amazon RDS and Amazon Aurora. If you're a customer looking to move away from self-managed relational document and key value stores such as MongoDB, we have AWS MongoDB, DocumentDB, and ElastiCache. If you have a specific Hadoop or Spark deployment on-prem, you can try Amazon EMR. So the point of the slide is Redshift is just one component of a broader data and analytics portfolio, and many of our largest customers, they like to use Redshift in concert with many of these services, right? So again, this goes back to one of AWS's fundamental philosophies, which is to marry the right tool to the right job that our customers are looking to implement within their companies. So this is just a deeper dive into the previous slide. So obviously I talked about some of the services that we had across the analytics portfolio. I want to also talk as to why customers prefer this, right? And there's 5 things that drive that evaluation, that drive that choice. One is we have more functionality, and our portfolio is broader and deeper than anything that we see in the marketplace. And by broad, I mean collectively these satisfy a large number of use cases, and within each use case, we offer deeper functionality, an additional level of complexity, or additional level of sophistication to address the complexity our customers face. Second is data democratization, right? We offer a secure and governed data lake with fine-grained access control that is very well integrated with our analytics stack, all these services. Third is AWS is innovating at a faster clip, more than anything else that we see in the market, especially in the areas of AI and ML and serverless and IoT computing. So let's dive a little bit into some of Amazon Redshift's key differentiators that allow us to really stand out in the marketplace, and that are driving awareness and consideration for Redshift in our customers' minds, right? So it comes down to 6 things, and let me touch on each of these. So first is, we've already discussed this, but data lake and AWS portfolio integration is a big part of why customers choose us, right? So today, you can take advantage of or be ready to evolve to a data lake or a real-time analytics use case. And Redshift is going to continue to invest in really making it easy to tie Redshift to any of the other analytic services we offer. You can query data that sits locally in disk and marry that with data that's in S3 or some of the other services, including EMR and SageMaker and Athena, right? Second, Redshift is the world's fastest data warehouse, and we keep getting faster. And we actually run a bunch of internal benchmark tests comparing Redshift against other data warehouse providers in the marketplace, as well as with Redshift itself. And we've made continuous performance improvements and optimizations that have made Redshift 10x faster than it was just 2 years ago. And according to our benchmarks, it's 3x faster than other cloud data warehouse. And unlike some of the other vendors, we allow customers to reproduce these benchmarks. We will share with you the methodology, the specific queries that we ran, the specific synthetic data sets that we tested these benchmarks against, as well as the specific size of the Redshift cluster that were used for these benchmarks, right? Third, Redshift offers the best value in terms of cost effectiveness. And this is primarily driven by three things. One is, we have a usage-based pricing instead of license-based pricing, so you can start small, get started really easily. Second is, as you scale your data warehouse and as you reach somewhat of a predictable consumption pattern, Redshift will offer you the ability to prepay for compute and sign up for reserved instances. It's a very unique billing construct that we have that allows you to get 30 to 60% off of on-demand prices for a longer-term commitment. Finally, Redshift also includes a lot of built-in security and data compression and backup, storage and data transfer capabilities, which you absolutely pay nothing for. We have a lot of other cost control levers that are worthy of another discussion. Hopefully in the webinar we'll be doing in a couple of weeks, we'll cover that. Scalability. Redshift clusters today scale from 160 gigs, and this is the small startups with 10 people, to 2 petabytes of storage. Resizing is completely managed by AWS. There's no limit to how often or by how much a cluster can scale. Security, I touched about this. You pay absolutely nothing extra beyond what you pay for the base version of Redshift. There's only one version of Redshift which has enterprise-grade security out of the box for no extra costs, right? So hardware security modules, security protocols, certification with SOC 1 and SOC 2 and FedRAMP and HIPAA, they're all available out of the box. And finally, we're continuing to invest to make Redshift self-optimizing, self-managing. We've heard from customers who've told us that they do not want to invest in DBAs. We recognize that need, and in response to that need, we have removed a lot of the administrative tasks that 3 to 4 years ago had to be manually done. So, your backup and replication is all automated. Redshift today also performs maintenance tasks on your behalf, such as vacuum and analyze. It automatically chooses table distribution styles. Adds clusters as concurrency increases. And a lot of this is machine learning driven. It's happening under the hood without customers even having to think about it. So let's focus a little bit on what the team has been busy with over the last 15 months. The team itself has seen a tremendous amount of investment, even within AWS. For those of you who tuned into reInvent last year, Andy Jassy spent a solid 10 minutes up on stage talking about Amazon Redshift. And if you think about the fact that AWS has 200 plus services and Andy only has a 3-hour keynote, that was testament to all the work that had gone into making Redshift a world-class service. So over the last 18 months, we've delivered 200 plus capabilities. And it's a lot to cover just in one presentation, but I'll just highlight a few of these. So first is concurrency scaling. We launched this about a year ago. And what this feature essentially does is it automatically adds transient capacity when your cluster is going to be hit with a usage spike, right? So, and it's incredibly how many of our customers are already using concurrency scaling today. And because we give you an hour a day of free usage of concurrency scaling credits, 97% of our customers who are using it absolutely paid nothing for it, right? So massive innovation. And again, it's all happening under the hood. You do not have to spin up these concurrency scaling clusters. And this just furthers that ease of use auto managing story. Second, at reInvent on stage, Andy Jassy announced a brand new RA3 instance, which has really helped customers scale and pay for storage and compute independently. It's a great mechanism to not oversize your cluster. It's a great cost control lever as well. This Redshift RA3 instance comes with 64 terabytes of addressable storage capacity per node. So a lot of customers have taken to this and have really upgraded their existing deployments to RA3. And because of all this additional storage and the faster backplane and the SSD-based disk that we have and all the high bandwidth networking, customers have been telling us that they will never ever have to add a node. And again, this was developed in response to an ask where customers were running out of storage space and they were having to add nodes. Now that problem has just disappeared. And in the second half of 2020, RA3 would be further fortified by something called Aqua, which is a brand new distributed and hardware accelerated cache that allows Redshift to run up to 10x faster than any other cloud data warehouse. And this is on top of the performance improvements we have been able to deliver just by improving Redshift under the hood, out of the box, right? Second is just before reInvent, we released something called materialized views. Again, the feature was developed in response to requests from customers who said, the fastest query is one that you do not have to fire at all. So we thought about it and we felt, well, wouldn't it be cool to persist into disk queries that get frequently run and pre-compute those results and cache the aggregations and the filters and even the joins between tables to make those queries go much faster. And that's exactly what we did. We've had amazing customer feedback to this. People have reported query times going from a couple of seconds to milliseconds because those results were pre-computed with materialized views. Redshift also supports SQL stored procedures now, and today, many of our customers, and since we're talking about migrations here, this is pertinent. You can really reduce your round trips between your applications and the database by combining multiple SQL steps into a stored procedure. And again, from a migration standpoint, this can really reduce the amount of effort that goes into those, right? So again, when you step back and you look at Redshift holistically, not only is it the most broadly used data warehouse, it's 3x faster than anything that's out there. It's 75% less expensive than anything else that's out there. And yet we're continuing to look around corners and look at edge cases and build new capabilities that collectively satisfy the needs of our customer base. Talking of customers, I want to focus the next few minutes of our presentation just honing in on some success stories. The first example is that of Pfizer. So, everyone's familiar with Pfizer, especially, in the current times we're on. A very important company, just to the healthcare ecosystem. About $53 billion in revenue as of 2018. And that's when we actually launched this case study. And they have a very large Redshift usage. And their clinical trial data and patient information data is mined with Redshift, and it absolutely has to have the highest security. Now Pfizer had two big parts of their business that were using Redshift, a pharma research and clinical trials division and a manufacturing division. The pharma research division They are involved in processing and understanding cross-instrument analytics. They also deal with a lot of historical drug safety and in vitro data analysis. They do a lot of correlations and cross-study that were previously not possible, and now they have predictive correlation with better predictive assays. Again, all enabled by a hosted data lake on AWS, which uses Redshift to analyze drug development and manufacturing data in real time. And Pfizer really drove a lot of value from their Redshift deployment. By making scientific data easily available, Pfizer was able to reduce the time it took to submit regulatory regulatory data and clinical experimentation, saving up to 3 weeks of scientists' time. Regulatory submissions were reduced by a factor of 5. So tremendous value driven for Pfizer there. And this is, again, one of our largest deployments. They presented at reInvent. So yeah, definitely encourage you to check out their presentation. The next use case is that of DHI Group, which is and I specifically chose case studies where a customer had migrated from an Oracle platform to Amazon Redshift, since that is the topic of this whole series. So DHX, technology company operating career marketplaces for technology. They're best known for their flagship brand, Dice.com. And they were stuck with a legacy relational database, which was found to be overpriced, came with very restrictive licensing, and DHI needed a more flexible database solution to more easily deliver specialized insights and relevant connections to their customers. And this is where Redshift and Aurora came into picture. DHI went all in on AWS databases. All their data warehouses were migrated to Redshift. Their operational data stores were migrated to Aurora. And today they're using Redshift to store their user tracking, to power all their big data initiatives. And in terms of the value realized, their 3-year cost of Redshift is less than their 1-year maintenance contract with the legacy vendor. And they're also seeing orders of magnitude increases in their processing speed. So again, this goes back to the elasticity as well as the administration benefits of moving to Redshift as your cloud data warehouse. Right? And finally, just to come back home, I want to talk a little bit about the Amazon.com case study. You might wonder, well, this is an AWS presentation where you're talking about Amazon.com. I referenced this case study to, really highlight the scale that Redshift can support. So the challenge here is Amazon.com used to run on Oracle database infrastructure that was, again, not designed to process petabytes of data. And it resulted in a super monolithic solution that was very hard to maintain and operate due to separation concerns from both a functional and financial perspective. From an operational perspective, it was really hard to transform tables with over hundreds of millions of rows, right? With the move to Redshift, a lot of that changed. Today, they have upwards of 100 petabytes stored on Redshift, and they're using Redshift in concert with several other AWS-based solution in a data lake pattern. So S3 is used as to store the raw data in native format, and Redshift is, of course, used for data warehousing purposes. And EMR provides a managed Hadoop framework that can run Spark and HBase and Presto and Flink. And I mentioned this, this data lake today has over 100 petabytes, almost twice the size of the previous Oracle data warehouse. And teams across Amazon are now, using over 2,700 Redshift or EMR clusters to process this data from the data lake. So again, just a real living and breathing example of the scale and the volume that's possible with Redshift. And this, by the way, is a public case study. You can just look up articles of the whole migration process and how Amazon's consumer business turned off its Oracle database. Right. So this, of course, was the quote from the VP of Technology, Software, and Development. By the way, even though for our reporting to Wall Street, we count non-Amazon entities as customers, just do know that AWS has a dedicated team to support Amazon as a customer, and some of the scale and the use cases Amazon supports, or Amazon.com's consumer business is implementing on AWS. I think they're tremendous learning experiences for us. So now that you've learned a little bit about Redshift at a high level, and you're ready to perform that next step and that migration journey, let's look at what that might involve today, right? So essentially, we're talking about 3 steps. You're talking about an analyze and plan step, a workshop and pilot step, and actually conducting the migration. And again, we want to emphasize that AWS is here to support through you throughout that process. But before that, let's spend a couple of moments on what each of those steps might involve, right? So analyze and plan. This is all about figuring out the responsibilities of your internal teams, and working with AWS and Apps Associates to understand the scope of the effort. What use cases are being migrated? What is going to be the business value? What are we going to do first, and what are we going to do later, right? And we want to partner with you on this journey to save you time and money. And typically, steps in this stage include, discovery and planning, building that use case, and really writing out that migration plan, right? Once you do that, you go into the workshop and pilot phase, where you're, assessing the value, and you're working back from that to develop a proof of concept, again, in partnership with the team from Apps Associates and AWS. And this is also where, and I'll have a separate slide on this, this is also where we can talk about some of the internal tools that AWS offers to assist with that migration, as well as some of the tools that Apps Associates has developed. And the steps in this process include, modifying and developing the BI and the apps that you're going to target, modifying and developing the ETL that you need to migrate, and looking at correcting any errors, right? Sometimes it's just about pointing a source to a target, but in certain other cases, there might be some effort involved in making sure all the current code base translates well to Redshift as a target. And finally, it's all about conducting the migration, which again, it's not serial. It is an iterate and optimize process, right? That's why it's a circle, not a line. So we want to integrate, test, monitor, optimize, and upon completion, fully realize the cloud benefits. This is a really, really exciting time for the organization when you begin to realize the benefits of that modern data warehouse, like we talked about earlier, right? So what tools do we have from AWS to support this? Again, I'll just spend a moment on this. So we have something called a schema conversion tool, which, and I think I might have to click one more time. There you go. So something called a schema conversion tool that really helps you with making those database migrations predictable by automatically converting the source database schema and a majority of the database code objects. So this could be your views, your stored procedures, your functions, and SCT has a lot of automation built into this, so we can do that. And then we have database migration service, which again, we have this custom built for migrating databases from a number of different sources, and with continuous replication, ensuring high availability and consolidation. And we also have the assistance of a whole number of partners, and Apps Associates is one of our most preeminent partners in this space. So absolutely engage us early and often in this process. And with that, I just want to conclude by calling out some next steps for everyone who tuned in. Thank you for listening. Definitely check out all the case studies that I talked about. Several of these can be referenced on Amazon.com/Redshift. All the reInvent presentations are available on YouTube. We would also love to have a private conversation to talk about your workload and your specific data strategy in detail. And finally, there's no substitute to just getting started. Start building and experimenting, and I'm going to go pass this back to Audrey and team.
Okay, thank you, Vadi. Do appreciate that. And so I've been monitoring the chat window for questions, and I think Carla, if you're on the other side.
Yep, we have. We do have
any
a couple.
questions? Okay.
We do. The first one is, how can I plan for an initiative that addresses enterprise reporting along with big data requirements?
And Adib, I think if we direct that one towards you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Adib, go ahead, and I can chime in with a couple of things.
You can take it.
Yeah.
You can take it, Vadi. You go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, we always like to work back from the use case, and there's a few different ways that you can start this process. Obviously, if you'd like to reach out, we have all the contact information at the end of the call, and usually this will lead to a discovery call where we would spend some time really understanding sort of your current environment, what is driving the migration, what are the different data sources, how much volume of data, what business applications is that supporting, and your timelines. And working back from that, we can come up in partnership with the Apps Associates team on what that scope of work would look like. And Adib, I'll let you finish that.
Yeah. Thank you, Vadi. No, I definitely. But one other point I'd like to make is that you don't need to have a project in place to engage us, right? Even if you're thinking about it, you need help with putting together the business case or the ROI, or aligning your investment with the business benefits. This is all the stuff we can help you with from an app standpoint. And we talk to many customers and prospects that are trying to build the business case to get the funding, and we'll be more than happy to be part of that.
Great. And we do have one more question. I know we're bumping up against time, but this is for Vadi. What makes AWS different from other vendors?
Yeah, I would simply say we have the most operational maturity and functionality than any other vendor out there, especially in the landscape of data warehousing, and even as a broader company, we are customer obsessed, and we have the most customers deploying their applications and their data warehouses on AWS and specifically Amazon Redshift. So that, I would say, is a very high-level answer. But to get a little bit more specific, I'll just go back to some of the things that I mentioned as the key differentiated value proposition statements for Redshift, right? So best performance, up to 3x faster than other cloud data warehouse, up to 75% less, or up to 75% more price performant or cost effective than other data warehouses. And all those things, I think, provide the most value of any other platform out there.
All right. Okay, well, thank you, Vaidi, Adib, for your input and also your time putting together the presentation today. So to recap, we hope that you learned the high-level changes to how we can approach data and ways that we can leverage a cloud-based platform such as Redshift to enhance how we drive business insight. And so more so based on the series itself, next week we'll focus more on the Oracle ERP application in our session titled Exposing Data from Oracle Applications for AWS Data Analytics. And it'll provide a comprehensive overview of how to best expose your Oracle ERP data by using the latest in data warehousing. And we'll get into more of a deep dive of the Redshift components as well. So in the meantime, we do thank you all for your time. Vaidi, Adib, again, thank you both for joining. And we look forward to having you join the rest of the series. So stay tuned and look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Audrey. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Cheers.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.